Hi, my name is Trinity Six, and this is the Limitless Infinite. And this is a space where I try to help you align your mind to higher vibrations and higher frequencies. So, this video is really about the coming of the new year, 2020. There has been a lot of discussion, I think, with a lot of different groups of people about this year being a big year of change, uh, shedding old thought forms, old patterns, releasing old negative sort of emotions in our past lives or in our current life experience, and then really starting to bring in new patterns, new beliefs, new programs. For some people, they might call sort of breaking free from the programs of the old matricy and really starting to be able to reprogram your life and reprogram this construct itself in a way that works for you, not against you. Not, I shouldn't say against you, but just works for you and for the lifestyle that you have. And so this video, the real focus is about our connection to Earth Gaia, the celestial body, the celestial being that we share our life with, that all the living organisms on the planet also share with. So for a lot of people, I think, especially now with so much of the consciousness being aware of the planet and the planet's needs, and that we are so directly connected to this planet itself, and we have to really be mindful about the welfare of the planet because it does directly relate to our lives and our welfare. And that being said, it's not just the planet, the earth, the ground that we live on, but it's all beings that share this planet and all life forms that share this planet as well. And it can be so important for the functionality of the bigger system as a whole that we really are looking out for all species. And this kind of falls in line too with sort of being of these higher vibrations and trying to emote a lot of this love frequency and positive, sort of positive vibrations in this way of being able to be connected. And so there's so much talk right now also about this unified field of consciousness that really ties us to the smallest possible particle that you can imagine, that science has come across, to the largest possible thing, the universe, the galaxy, the universe, the cosmos itself. And so I really wanted to make this video about our mindset affecting this unified consciousness and how that is going to reset or sort of set for this new year a new social memory complex that is associated with this planet. So for a very long time, this planet, generally you would think this planet tends to be governed a lot on the belief of the masses, meaning like you hear about all the time, like there are a certain, like 2 or 3 main religions that really govern a mass amount of people. And now that we're coming into this new age where people are having spiritual awakenings and they're becoming more attuned to the spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs, however you want to, whichever one that you align with, or possibly having no beliefs, if that's really your alignment too. But, and trying to understand how that all works. And there's so much talk about people and sort of becoming, this idea of oneness. And I think a lot of people see the negative side, like that we're trying, that this idea is like trying to make everybody conform into, one belief. But I think it's so important during this new year to remember that acceptance is really one of, I think, the most important qualities that we could imbue coming into this new year, which is not trying to kind of impose any negative energies onto anybody that has a different belief system than you, whether or not on your path you think that this system is an old program that should not be used, or whether or not this is like a system of belief that doesn't work for you personally. It's really about being intentful and being focused on your journey and aligning with people that share the same beliefs as you. So, I grew up as I grew up, my mom was Catholic, so I got baptized, I made my confirmation, I went through all that, but I have made the choice over my lifetime to not practice Catholicism, and it doesn't necessarily mean I don't believe in anything that I was taught, but just that particular path, that particular way of living that comes with being a practitioner and being really strong in your faith just wasn't as attuned to me. But part of that is also, there was a lot of, I think there is and can be with some religions, a lot of sort of, I don't even want to say focus, but there's a lot of teachings that end up teaching you about, like in Catholicism, about sinning and what it means to be a sinner and the steps that you take in order to be absolved from these sins. And then, what happens though, I think a lot of times, is a lot of people end up getting kind of entrapped in this idea of kind of just looking around at other people who don't share their belief, or in my religion it's supposed to be this way and you're practicing that faith and that's a sin. And I think this year is really about, if that's your belief, that's your belief, and if that's how you live, that's how you live. But this idea of acceptance is really about being able to just focus on your faith, whatever that is, and to not pay too much attention to somebody else that has a different faith or a different belief system than you. And part of that, if we can start to learn to accept people at this level, what it does is it's going to create this new social memory complex for the planet that we live on, which is this one of acceptance and falling in tune with accepting one another and accepting that we're going to have different beliefs, and that's fine, and that there's all different levels and stages of our evolutionary path, whether it be spiritual or physical or whatever you want to say. But there's different levels of conscious understanding, and wherever you're at, it doesn't matter. I think for a lot of people who are coming into spirituality, it's about being able to understand that everybody is at a different place of learning, and it's really just accepting one another and accepting that some people just aren't as far along. A lot of people that just live in negative emotions and negative energies and aren't interested at all in change, not, I wouldn't say changing, but stepping into their own evolutionary path. It's, you have to accept that that's their right to choose. And so you just have to focus on your life. And it can be really hard when we have different faiths and different belief systems, and somehow somebody else's belief system is impeding on your ability to practice your faith and your belief. And so the one thing I think that was really going to help in this new year and kind of resetting these old patterns and these old thoughts, and sort of shedding the idea of things having to be so separate, is this idea of karma, or the law of karma. And this being a law that I think has always been in existence, but I think because karma can be tied to certain specific religions, it's kind of viewed, I think, for other religions, like as something that you wouldn't necessarily think of as part of your faith. Like if I'm Catholic, I was never taught that karma is something that I would be aware of. We were taught about, sinning and asking for forgiveness for our sins, but we're not really taught about karma in general. And that's kind of associated with a different kind of religion. But if we can try to think about karma as not being tied to one religion, but being a universal law, which it is, we can understand that karma is sort of one law I would call of morality that can be easily integrated into any religious or spiritual belief or practice. Or even if you're atheist and you don't believe in any God or anything like that, karma is sort of the one thing that can help unify all these different types of beliefs. And so I feel like there's been such a push for people to say that all this change is happening and with these awakenings, and you have a lot of people kind of not wanting to be tied to certain types of, religion and the structures that happen there, and to have their own belief systems. But if we can find that common place to be able to say, I accept you, but if we just all treat each other, as I always was taught growing up, by the golden rule, which is to treat other people how you want to be treated. And granted, not everybody wants to be treated the same way, but I think the underlying sort of idea about the golden rule, which is funny because we're coming into the golden era, is about being able to, even if you're the worst person in the world, you don't want someone treating you bad. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're somebody that's negative to a lot of people or bad or rude to a lot of people, you don't generally want people to be rude to you. It's just a quality, or a characteristic that you have, and maybe you know, or maybe you don't know. But you kind of always, I think there's like a few qualities that are always underlying there. You always want to be respected. I mean, most people generally always want to be treated, fairly. Uh, and then, of course, within that, I think also exists this idea of, just being accepted. Just leave me, whether it's like you want to talk about what I believe in, you want to share your ideas, that's great. Or just, if you want to leave me alone because I just don't want to have to, have a discussion with someone that shares different beliefs, whatever it is that you want. But the idea is to accept, and then, to be sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily truthful, but like I said, respectful to one another and respecting other people's differences. And then, sort of having this underlying idea about, like, when you put out those good energies, and by good energies, I mean by treating people with things like respect, and being treated fairly and being accepted for who you are without trying to force people to change, that this is what you would call sort of good karma. Good karma is about these types of qualities which don't imbue onto anybody that they have to change, that what they're doing isn't the right way to live, or is some old pattern of thought. It's, not my place, and I believe not anybody's place to judge anybody else on, if I have just like, it's for me, like me not being Catholic, I don't look at other people being Catholic and be like, oh, like you just haven't figured it out yet, or, I don't believe that at all. It's like, it's, I think, a very good structure to have in your life, to have that kind of faith if it works for you. And there's a lot of great people that are Catholic, and they're wonderful people, and the quality of life that they have because of their faith is really amazing. And I would never take that from somebody else. And I certainly would never want to make anybody feel bad or negative because that's their choice. Me personally, that's not for me. That's not my path. But I would hope that a Catholic who may see my spirituality as a type of sin would at least accept that it's my choice to make that choice for myself, and not have to necessarily be in a place of judgment, would be able to look at me and say, you know what, you believe in this, this, and this, and my faith, that might be a sin, but you're entitled to do so. Let me just focus on my faith. And so that's kind of also what I was saying before about being part of that religion. You do get some people that are in groups like that tend to start really looking around at everybody else, and it becomes their main prerogative of their faith to really start I don't want to say casting judgment, but sort of looking at everybody else around them who's not Catholic and trying to say, well, that action's wrong and this action's wrong. It's a lot too, like, when you get in a lot of these wars about, the gay or lesbian or transgender community or anything like that, and it's a lot of people saying, well, that's not right. And it's like, well, if that's what they are, then they're not sharing the same faith as you, and so you just live your faith and you focus on your faith, and you let them, you accept that they're living a totally different life, and you just let them live it. And I think that I understand that this is like a really difficult concept for a lot of people to understand, but if we can solidify our beliefs in this law of karma, which is really about putting out good energies, like I said, if you're focused on somebody else being a sinner, then what you're focused on is negative energies, because to you, a sin is something negative, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. If you're just somebody that has another faith and somebody else is practicing a faith that is, to you, not the belief system that makes sense to you, don't focus on that, because to you, that's generating negative energy because it's not aligned with you. Or in you, you're creating negative or discordant energy with someone else because you're trying to tell them not to believe this or not to believe that. And instead, if we can just focus on the idea of this, karma, which is really about the energies that you put out come back to you. It's like, if you just put out good energies, which is, I love my faith, or I love my spirituality, and I love being aligned with people that are, in that same vibration as me, then what you get back is more of that kind of community, and you can feel sort of tight-knit within your group of people. And what that does is, people within their own faith and their own spiritual ideas, these in and of itself can create social memory complexes, especially when they're really big groups of people, masses of people around the planet believing in the same thing. And For a long time, there's been certain religious groups who have amassed so many numbers that the social memory complex that comes with the belief of these kinds of faith and sort of the agendas that these faiths have with the modern world and modern society, and just how the structure of the sort of the earth itself and human civilization is. These social memory complexes that come with these really large groups, especially like very large religions, these become embedded in how larger society works. Society within a town, within a state, within a country, and within the world. So when we have this, you can see that there's, it's like when you have so many people believing in, let's say, like Catholicism and Christianity, but there's certain actions within that religious group that are deemed like not okay. It does, when that many people believe in a certain thing, and then that many people have that social memory complex that affects things like people running governments or people making decisions that are large groups of people. That's when it starts affecting other groups of people that don't necessarily align with that same belief. And so I think really trying to just, if we can get attuned with this idea of putting out good energies, but I say good energies in the idea of accepting other people, it will create a new network, like a new social memory complex. And what we're doing now is sort of resetting Earth to be more unified under a larger network that will be sort of like the worldwide social memory complex. And so for a long time, we've had like these really large groups. I would say especially with religious groups, because they share such strong common beliefs. And, like when you say the powers in the people, what people believe govern. It governs the physical world, the mental world, the spiritual world. And so when that happens, you have these different groups, and there needs to be one field that kind of tries to unify all these individual social memory complexes that have essentially been embedded in how the earth has been governed for obviously centuries now. And so what that is this law of karma. This idea of karma is something that can be integrated into every religion, into every belief, without affecting it, without changing it. It actually is something to me that really supplements and enhances most religious beliefs that, or the moral compassing that comes with religious beliefs. And so if you can integrate this creates a new social memory complex that is, if we can just think that the whole planet could be governed by this, and we don't just mean people to person. It's like me caring about the consciousness and the living part of plants, and me caring about animals, and me caring about pretty much anything that, it's even talking about like me caring about Earth, because the Earth is where we grow our food. The Earth is where, animals are raised. The Earth is what provides to us everything that we need to be sustained. It's where we build our houses. It's where, like I said, we get our food. The planet itself recycles water for us to be able to live. The trees themselves recycle air for us to be able to breathe. So it's about, so if you think, well, I should have respect for trees. I should have respect for water. I should have respect for land. I should have respect for people, for animals. If you start instilling this value of karma into your whole life experience, encompassing all these different living organisms and different systems that work as part of this whole planetary system that essentially allows us to flourish and to live these lives that we have, this is what will create this new social memory complex that is essentially Earth Gaia. And this is what can unify these very different groups of people. So even though you might have very different beliefs, come from very different places, might be very different individuals, it is sort of the one network that can pull everything together. And it's not just people together, it's people with everything that's around us. So when we're talking about this sort of unified energy field, the unified energy field and just the knowledge that is there isn't enough to necessarily create a social memory complex. It is like the one thing that we can bring our awareness to that can help us to understand how integrated we are, but then we need almost something else to kind of pull us together, to take that unified consciousness that we now know exists and to be able to say, we need something to help us govern how this unified consciousness interacts within itself, and then how that consciousness interacts within itself, not just here on Earth, but now, when we look out beyond, when we look out within our place within the solar system, within our place within the galaxy, within our place within the universe, and within the cosmos. And for most people, you don't necessarily aren't going to zoom out that far, but even if you're just thinking about your life here, it's really about that. It's about bringing us together. And govern is kind of a tough word because people, it's always kind of a tough thing to hear when you want to be independent and have your own individual experience to be governed by something. But it's almost like guidance. It's like a way to guide us into understanding that this network exists. And it's a guidance tool for us to be able to make all these connections to all these very different things in a way that imbues positive energy without necessarily, I think a lot of people during this time are really getting nervous about having to change, being asked to change, people wanting to judge other people for not understanding certain levels of consciousness. And it's the same thing. You see a lot of this, like there's been so much in the last decade of people drawing lines in the sand of, things like cultural appropriation and, defining who you are and how you view yourself. And, people want to have rights to this and rights to that. And certainly, if you feel you still need to do that, certainly that's well within your right. But it would be great to have this one thing to be able to say, you know what, like, I don't believe in, if I'm Catholic and I don't believe in gay marriage, okay, I'm not partaking in gay marriage, so it's not my sin, but it's not my business. And so I don't want to sit here and tell somebody they are living their life the wrong way, or they can't do this or they can't do that, because that's negative energy. That's me expelling a negative energy at somebody that doesn't even have this faith. So at the end of the day, in their little universe that they're living in their life experience, it does not matter. It does not matter. And they're not living their life to offend you. They're just living their own choice. And so you kind of have to be able to say, all right, well, if I'm just focused all day on that situation, which to me might be, unacceptable, that really doesn't do anything except bring that situation in like this loop back to myself, because now I'm continuously thinking about it. There's nothing I can do about it because that person is going to live however they want to live. And now I'm just, what am I doing? I'm just not focused on me being more ingrained in my faith. And so when you spend time expelling negative energies at a situation that is not aligned with you, that is time taken out of your life that you could be doing, aligning yourself with more things within your faith, with more people that share your belief. So when we can come to this kind of idea that you can have your life however you want it, you can live by any choice that you want to, but to just try to keep putting out positive energy, and the best way to do that is to really live within your belief system, live within, your faith or however you want your life to be, and to really share that space with the people that share, have that same vibration, and to just accept, that somebody else is going to make a different choice. And I guess it's like, it can be obviously very hard to say this and for some people to actually implement it, but I really just wanted to make this video about using karma. And karma does not have to be associated with one specific religion. The idea of good karma and bad karma is that, you're putting out good energies, you get good energies back to you. But if you put out negative energies, that negative energy comes back to you too, which is pretty much aligned with, I feel like, all the moral underlinings of any other religious belief or faith. In anything, it kind of strengthens. It can almost further strengthen your belief in any faith as well. And so it doesn't take away, it's not asking you to change, it's just a very simple idea when integrated can help, I think, make your faith stronger, and your ability to understand, how your place in being a good human being, and treating people well and being able to further the idea of emoting more love and, more positivity into the planet. And so it's important now for us to be able to make this construct, this social memory construct. And when we attach that to Earth, because this social memory construct is not, or social memory complex is not just attached to humans, because we can apply it to any living thing on the planet, even the air, even the molecules that are in the air that we breathe, and respecting that, because we need air to live, and so do plants, and so do animals. When we are able to really expand our consciousness to apply this idea, to these other energies that we live with, or living organisms that we live with, or parts of Earth itself that we utilize that are part of the structure of our life, that's when it becomes ingrained in a planetary social memory complex. And when we talk about it on that plane, and we're talking about applying it at that level, it literally becomes that which sort of governs or guides Gaia itself. I mean, governs probably the best word, but sometimes that word is hard to hear. But we need this to help us unify sort of our energies together. And that in and of itself creates what we will call Earth Gaia, or Mother Earth. And to know that Earth itself is its own living organism. It is its own, sort of celestial being, that has its own level of consciousness that comes from the cumulative ideas that we carry as planetary beings. So what we're hoping to do is to just basically re-energize this Earth to be under this law that governs, has governance over a lot of different places in the universe. But when we do that, that's really going to also be what allows us to get to these higher vibrations and these higher frequencies, and to sort of move through our state of ascension on a personal level, but also on a planetary level. And, even for people that, may not believe necessarily in higher vibrations or higher frequencies, when we're talking about that, we're really just talking about love, love and positivity. And we want to be able to imbue those types of qualities into the social memory complex that we would call Earth Gaia, the governing system that will help our planet to come together and to, get rid of these old programs that we've had before. I shouldn't even say get rid of old programs, but let's say integrate these older programs that we've had that have not been able to find one common thing to kind of unify them all together. So this is really the time for a lot of people to be able to have, for me, faith in something. If you can have faith in one thing, it would be this thing, and being able to have faith in that, and being able to understand that you can integrate that into your life at any level with any belief, strengthens our ability to come together as a species, and then to be able to work with other species that are here, and then for us to be able to work together with the planet itself to really be able to sort of create a place for us to be sustained with, really flourishing lives for many, many years to come. So anyway, this was just my video. I just wanted to get it out there about sort of this reset and coming into this new year. And I wouldn't even say shedding programs, but just let's integrate all of our programs that we have. And if you need to shed old programs, that's great. If you want to let go of older programs, that's fantastic too. But for us to really come together as a group of human beings, and to be unified in that, and then to kind of help the Earth become stabilized with that unification that we have, not just with people, but with everything. So this is I Am 26, and this is Limitless Infinite, and hope you had a good new year, and I'll see you in my next video.